But as for you, Daniel, conceal these words and seal up the book until the end of time. Many will go back and forth, and knowledge will increase. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others were standing on this bank of the river, and the other on that bank of the river. And one said to the man dressed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, How long will it be until the end of these wonders? Now I'm going to point out the obvious, but my experience with this has been that most people do not see what is going on in this verse. First of all, what they don't see is that Daniel is the observer. He is still the observer. And that in this verse, it is not Daniel who asks the question. Daniel probably doesn't know to ask the question. The question is asked by a divine being, a man dressed in linen, and we know that linen is the garb of the righteous. A man dressed in linen who is above the waters of the river, so he's levitating above the waters of the river. We know he is not human. And the question that he asks is this: how long will it be? The question implies time.
An answer too. An answer to time.
A question that says how long, what is the answer going to be?
An answer in time.
An answer in time. You know, you say, how long will it be until this study is over? Well, I can tell you, 11 o'clock, or a couple of minutes before.
13 minutes or so.
You know, 10 minutes, 12 minutes more. How long begs an answer of time. Now, Daniel is not the one wanting to know how long. It is this divine being that is above the waters of the river. Now, why would the divine being be concerned about how long it'll be until these wonders occur?
It's doing a Rich Humble. It's asking a question for somebody else.
Right. Daniel doesn't know to ask the question. He doesn't know that he's supposed to ask this question. And so the question is asked by the divine being above the waters of the river. Why is the question asked? Because we are supposed to be able to see that this is an important question that we need to know the answer to. How long will it be until the end of these wonders? Verse 7, And I heard the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, as he raised his right hand and his left hand toward heaven. Right hand and left hand is knowledge and understanding. And swore by him who lives forever that it would be for a time, times, and a half a time, as soon as they finish shattering the power of the holy people, all these events will be completed. Well, there we go. Now we know, don't we?
That told us a whole lot.
What is a time?
A year.
Okay, so how do we know that it is a year?
All right, I'll bite.
All right, Dennis. See, Dennis knows the answer, but he doesn't know the reason.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The earth revolves around the sun.
Correct.
The start of each revolution starts at a certain point in the orbit.
Spring equinox.
Spring equinox. Why the spring equinox? What is the spring equinox?
It's the start of the year for God.
What is an equinox?
It's the equality of the day and the night.
Equality. Okay, we have equality here. Equal time. Day and night are 12 hours.
By the way, Jesus mentioned that at one point, didn't he? Are there not 12 hours in a day? He must have been
at
talking
a particular time.
At a particular time.
If Jesus was not trying to stretch the truth, if he was in fact being absolutely correct, that would have had to have been the spring equinox.
Exactly.
or the fall equinox, but we know it was the spring because it was
It was
Passover.
Passover.
As the Earth, tilted on its axis, revolves around the sun, there are two places in its orbit where the sun crosses the equatorial
Plane of the ecliptic.
plane. If you would take the equator and extend it out into space, as the sun would move across that or be on the equator, you would have equal day and night. That occurs twice, like I said, once in the spring, once in the fall. Now, a time would be one revolution, or one time around the sun, and when we start counting on the spring equinox, we would count until the next spring equinox, and that would be one time. Times would be more than one. What's more than one? Two. So time, times, and then if it was more than two, it would be specific. Times is 2, and then it would either be 3 times or 4 times or 5 times for the number of years. So a time is 1 year, a times is 2 more years, and a half a time would be from the spring equinox to what would you expect it to be? From
Fall
Fall
to the fall equinox. So from the spring equinox to the fall equinox is a half a time. And when we put that all together, how much time do we have? 3.5 years, starting with the spring equinox. And at the end of that 3.5 year period, what happens? The finishing, or the end, of the shattering of the power of the holy people, or the scattering power of the holy people, depending upon the Hebrew word and how it's translated. But the information, the understanding being conveyed here is that when the holy people's job is done, so implying that the holy people will be working, spreading the truth throughout the world, doing battle with the kingdom of lies, when that part of their mission is completed, 3.5 years will have elapsed. So their ministry will start on the spring equinox, or right around there, and it will end on the fall equinox. Okay, there's one time period. Now, we only have about 5 minutes left. We won't be able to get into the others, and so we will stop here for now. But in our study, what I want to let you know, so you can be looking at, if you want to study during the week, Daniel 12, is there are 2 other time periods which we will go over next week. And I want you to understand that when we put these 3 together, we will start to see a picture. We have to take some time periods from Revelation 2, but we'll start to see a picture. And I will show you how, by overlaying these time periods, the year 2012 appears.